So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm also going to share a few songs with you as examples as we go along. But for the most part, you're going to see a slide program that I created just to keep us all on track. And I have created a PDF of these slides that will be available. Nancy will send it out along with the link for the replay tomorrow. I think you'll probably get that. So if somehow this glitches or you have to leave earlier, whatever it may be, you can definitely get the replay. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to share my sound as well. And here we go. You should be able to see my screen now. I'm gonna play on this Mac. All right, great. So I assume you can see this slide that says swimming in sync. Just give me a thumb. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, and I'm not going to be able to see the questions. So Nancy, you're going to have to monitor that if you can,
Will do.
because it's hard for me to see the comments, the chat when I'm doing this full screen share. So, Songwriter's Guide to Writing and Producing for TV, Films, and Commercials. There are other places that sync, video games being one of them, coming up very soon in the metaverse and what they call Web 3, and it's not Web 3.0, but Web 3. There's going to be a lot more other opportunities, but the typical ones that we're writing and producing for TV, films, and commercials. And why you'd want to do that, just really quickly, those of you who are in Nashville are writing for country artists, to get a country cut with a signed artist, a major label signed artist, is challenging. It's like winning the lotto. Getting a #1 song or a top 10 song with a major label artist, country artist, is like winning the Mega Millions lottery. It's one of those, $897 million lotteries. It's very, very difficult. Getting a sync placement is like $100 scratch off ticket. So as I started to learn the odds for country cuts, I started to move over to sync placements. And I got my first sync placement a few years ago, and I'll tell you about that when we get into here, but it's not that hard to do it. I didn't even know what I was doing, and somehow I got one. So what is sync? It's short for synchronization, matching music to videos or visual, sometimes spelled with a CH, but I usually spell it without that. There are licensing fees. The people license your recording, not your song, but your recording and the writing and the publishing basically. So they're licensing to use in TV, movies, commercials, advertisements, promos, web promos or anything like that. A promo for a product. It might be a perfume or a new car or whatever it may be, but it's only on the web. Trailers, video games, etc. Trailers are a really big part of the sync market. We're probably not going to go into that too much here. That's more instrumental typically. And some people make a full-time living with sync licensing. I know a few who do. My story, I started out as a singer-songwriter and wrote songs over the years, but few people heard them aside from family and friends, and a handful of people who heard me play when I go out to restaurants and bars. And about 6 years ago, I said I got serious about wanting to write commercial songs that others would want to record, but it was really, really hard to do it. Now, I have had 54 songs released, but mostly by indie artists. I've got one on hold for major label artists, but it hasn't come out yet. And again, the odds of that are very, very low, even though I'm going for it. And I'm sure a lot of you are going for it. When I found out about sync, I was excited. One of the things I loved about it is that I could write any style. I used to be singer-songwriter. I could write R&B. I could write rock. I could write punk. I've recently been writing rap, which I never thought I would, but I have co-writers who wanted to write rap, and I'm a good lyricist, so I can jump in there. I like the inner rhymes. So the odds were much better. I got my first sync placement several years ago, and it was for $1,000. US. There are people from all over the world on here, so I wanted to specify it was US. On a reality show called Bush Family Brew, I received my share of that money 2 weeks later. And I'll tell you, I've never received any of my share of my writing and publishing in 2 weeks. It's now, you always wait 9 months, 6 months, 9 months, 2 years to get your royalties. They played 5 seconds of my chorus and they just chopped it up. So they played it 4 times. So it was 20 seconds. They paid me $1,000. I loved it. I was like, this is great. Let's do more of this. So I got really excited about it. But as I said, I had to unlearn some of the things and change lyric habits to succeed in sync. Sync has less specific furniture. When I came to Nashville, they're like, not enough furniture. You need specifics in there to make it much more rich in terms of lyrical content for country. And that is the exact opposite. It's still specific. It just uses what I would call metaphorical images much more. And why? Of course, because you can't contradict what's on the video. So if they've got somebody driving, a Tesla down the road, they don't want to hear, she was up in my truck. She was up in my Ford 150. It's going to conflict with, or if they say it was a beautiful morning and what's on the screen is a sunset, it's not going to work. So you really have to be careful not to contradict what they're going to put it on when it's as a visual with it. So here's some examples. Lyrics for country have what they call furniture, and that is sensory specific details about characters, locations, and actions. So here's from one of my songs. I'm from a small black dot on a Rand McNally map, a wide spot on the country road just off the beaten path, a 4-way stop at Baptist Church and a Dairy Queen. Yeah, this is my whole world. You might miss it if you blink. Now, if there's no Dairy Queen in the video or a Baptist church, you could be out of luck with that sync placement. Here's another one. I was baling hay for her dad that June. She was home on break from our Ivy League school. I teased her about the pretty freckles on her nose. She made fun of my farm boy clothes. If the actress doesn't have pretty freckles on her nose and he's not wearing farm boy clothes, you could be out of that placement. So you get the idea. Now, how would you write for sync? Here's an example from another one of my songs. When you know in an instant, you find what you've been missing. And it feels like you're coming home. It's been such a long, long road. Now, there's a little furniture in there. Instant, that's a time specific, but it's not that specific. And it feels like you're coming home. That's more of a metaphorical image. It feels like you've been gone and you're coming home. And it's been such a long, long road. Now, it doesn't matter if there's a long, long road on the visuals because they know you're talking metaphorically at that point. All right. So here's the chorus. Oh, 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 oh. Maybe I'll play this one. I'm not searching anymore. It's worth waiting for. Oh, oh, oh. All the time it's got to take. Great is worth the waiting for. Now, if I turned that into a country publisher, they'd say, not enough furniture. This is a vague song. You need to get more furniture in that. But I turn it in for sync and they go, perfect. None of that is going to interfere with whatever we try and place it with. Now, again, I just want to be clear. Any song, potentially, a country song, a very specific song, could make it into a sync placement, but you're going to up your odds if you learn to do sort of the opposite of what they're teaching you to do if you're a country songwriter. Or even sometimes, a specific pop songwriter like Olivia Rodrigo. I was driving past her house. I got my driver's license and I drove past her house. If that doesn't fit with what's on the visuals, you could be out of luck. All right. So actually, let me play you that because we're going to talk about the what I want to say, production value too. Here's that song I just played you the chorus for, and I want you to listen for several things because we can get into this when we get into production. In country songs, and in fact, most modern pop songs and country songs, there's very little space in there. There's a lot of words going really quickly and not much space between the lines. In sync, usually a lot more space. And some of those oh-ohs, you know, or whoa-whoas, or na-na, or la-la, you know, the Beatles, na-na-na-na-na-na. That's great for sync, because they might have dialogue going over that, and they don't want anything to interfere with that dialogue. So here's this song, written with Lucy LeBlanc and Steve Collum, who's got over 10,000 placements, and he produced this and sang it.
You know, when you know, in an instant,
A lot of space here.
you find what you've been missing,
Hey.
and it feels like you're coming home. It's been such a long, long road, and I'm not searching anymore. It's worth waiting for. And all the time it's gotta take, great is worth the waiting for. And you feel
Okay, you get the idea. Let me go back to this other screen. Make sure you can see this. All right, yeah, we're back on the slides. Yes, nod, thumbs up. You can see the slides. Good, thank you. All right, so these were those lyrics that I just played for you. This is the whole thing that I played for you. That oh is going to be an important principle when you're writing and when you're producing. And even if when you're writing you don't have that, you might put a bridge in that has no lyrics, and we're going to call that vocalese in a minute. We're going to get into that. So use metaphorical images rather than specific descriptions, details, characters, and settings, like, you know, being in a well, being a camera, a car crash, or being like a firework. Perfect song, which for a while, even though it's very expensive to license, that got licensed a lot, was Firework by Katy Perry. You know, one of those pop songs. Here's the lyric. Now, if this were placed in a movie or a TV show, it wouldn't interfere, even though there are specific images in this. They're metaphorical images. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under, screams, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know there's still a chance for you? Because there's a spark in you. You just got to ignite the light and let it shine. Just own the night like the 4th of July. Because baby, you're a firework. Some of you know this song. So I see the video because she has firework coming out of her chest. Come on, show them what you're worth. Make them go, oh, 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 as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make them go, oh, oh, oh. You're going to leave them all in awe, awe, awe. Perfect song for sync, because nothing in that interferes with whatever the visual might be. It could be for a television ad. It could be for a TV show, and one of the characters is feeling terrible and someone is giving them advice to, you know, or they're giving themselves advice to stand up for themselves and let themselves shine. It's a really great song for sync. Now, this is a pop song. It was fine for the radio, and it's also fine for sync. And there are, you see, what you would call metaphorical furniture: plastic bag, wind, paper thin, house of cards, buried deep, 6 feet under, spark, ignite the light, let it shine, 4th of July. Usually you wouldn't put a date in there because, again, it could be winter and you're playing a song about the 4th of July. But they get, when they're hearing it, that this is a metaphorical 4th of July. You're a firework, shoot across the sky, colors burst, leave them all in awe. So there's furniture in there. It's just metaphorical furniture. All right. As I said before, leave more space between lines. I heard a presentation by Robin Frederick one time, and she said she played ads and pop songs from the 1950s to the 2010s. And what she said changed. The biggest thing that changed as a pattern was there were less and less space between one line and the next. So a lot of modern pop songs, obviously rap songs and hip hop songs, have a lot of that lyric just going, going, going. There's very little space between it. But most modern songs, not all of them, but most modern songs, as soon as you get to the end of the line, you're starting another line, sometimes right on top of that other line. In sync, they want more space because every once in a while they want the dialogue. They also want to be able to edit the song. So there should be space between sections, sometimes a full drop. So there's no noise for 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds. And in a pop song or a country song, you typically wouldn't do that because people would think the radio had gone off. You have to have music going the whole time. So more space between the lines, more space between sections, and what we'll call vocalese, which is na, 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 la, la, la. You know, when I was growing up, there were a bunch of songs that were, the choruses were vocalese. I'm sitting in a la, la, waiting for my ya, ya, huh? That's vocalese. It means nothing, but it sounds cool. You know, it's like la 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 means I love you. All right, that's vocalese. Now it's not the same as scat, which is, you know, what jazz singers sometimes do. You can also put scat in, but vocalese is more of these yeah, oh, no, da da da, la la la, oh, you know, whoa whoa whoa, that kind of stuff. So instead of writing bridges, which I typically do in country, I'll write a vocalese bridge. Or instead of putting a line in with lyric in the middle of the chorus, I'll put a vocalese thing like no 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 no, or la 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 la, something like that. And you got to get clever because a lot of them have been used up. Producing for sync. Sync productions cannot be like, hey, I want to play you the song and see if it would work on the radio, but it's more of a demo quality or a work tape. They don't want to hear it. They want to hear what the final version is. So they call that radio ready, as if it could be released and played on the radio streaming services. It's got to be master quality. And so those of you who are in Nashville, sometimes you've gotten great recordings of your song, but they were recorded at what they call a demo rate. And if you've gotten it recorded at a studio uses union musicians, you cannot use that for sync because you hire them to do a demo, which is a demonstration recording, to demonstrate your song to the artist you want to record it. You can't release that song on Spotify or anything like that. You would have to go back to those people, and if they agreed, you would have to pay them an extra fee, and it's usually another couple of $100 to get the masters right to that, and maybe even a new mix on it, because they can mix it at a higher rate with a WAV file or whatever, and they could give you the stems or the individual files in those Pro Tools or Logic recordings or whatever DAW they're using, whatever recording program they're using. Sometimes in sync, they want the stems, what they call the stereo master tracks, each individually or group. They want all the percussion, or they want all the strings, or they want all the guitars, or they want the vocals as separate tracks or as clumps of tracks. Sometimes they just want all the, you know, the brass, or they want all the strings, and those are called stems. And so it's incumbent upon you to get those if you've hired someone else to do the recording. So they want to hear really, really high, and voice and production are so crucial in sync. Everything has to be high level. Sometimes it can be goofy and weird and not high level, but again, that's the exception to the rule. There's usually more space in sync production. You will see, if you look at a waveform. If you've got a program that shows you the waveform, I've got a program on my computer where I can look at the waveform of whatever song that I'm doing. And if I see, well, I'll show you an example of this. So you see this at the bottom of my screen. It's a little hard to see because it's white, but this is an example of a good sync song, because you can see that it has spaces in there where there's not a lot of big waveforms. If they look at the whole thing and almost everything is even, they're going to say that's not a song for sync. Now, again, exceptions to the rule. You can certainly have a song that has those waveforms that aren't like this, but you see, and you could even look at this as somebody who knows songs well, like Nancy, who's a songwriter and a publisher and a plugger. She could look at this song and tell me exactly where the bridge is in this song. It's exactly where it is. And what you'll find when you pitch to sync, they'll jump around through your production. They won't listen to the whole song, and they'll go to a low point, they'll go to a high point, they'll go to the chorus, and then they'll jump to the bridge, and then they'll hear if you build it near the end. They're listening for the production. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, 2 questions, Bill. One is on the stems. This is my question for you. Say go to who's ever producing my track, and I say, give me my vocal. Is that just a raw vocal with nothing on it?
No, it's tuned typically. It's auto-tuned or tuned with Melodyne or something like that. And it's stereo mixed. That is, it's got the plugins on it too. They don't want that raw vocal. They do want your vocal but it has to have all those effects on it. If it's got reverb on it, they want the effects on it. Sometimes with vocals, they want the dry vocal too, but they would definitely want it tuned, and any other plugins that are put on there to make it sound better. They definitely want the highest quality one. So vocals are a little different, but the rest of it, they want all those plugins, but they may not have the same plugins. So they want you to export it as a stereo mix. That's why STEM stands for stereo mix.
Okay,
So,
that's great. Yeah. Okay, so, and then an instrumental where you're just dropping out the vocals, and so
most sync wants the vocal version. If it's a vocal song, sometimes it's just an instrumental song, but they want the vocal version of the instrumental. Now, sometimes they want alternate mixes. And what they mean by that is they want a 30-second version, a 60-second version, if it's going to be used in an ad or maybe in a TV show. They don't have time to do that edit sometimes. So they say, do you have any cut downs? Those are 30, 60 minute, 90 seconds, 30, 60, 90-second versions, 10-second versions, sometimes 15-second versions. If it's going to be used on TikTok, they want a 15-second version. So, they want cut downs. They'll also want alternate mixes. Sometimes I'll do a mix, no percussion. It's just guitar vocal or piano vocal with a cello. And sometimes I'll have a vocal and cello only, even though there's guitar and piano in the original mix. They want alternate mixes. Rarely do they want that. Rarely do they actually ask for the individual tracks, the stems. But they might, and you should have those if you can. You should have the original session, as they call it, in Pro Tools or Logic available to you. So when I hire a producer for work for hire, I say, I want the stems. And sometimes I'll say, if you want the stems, it's $50 more. Okay, I want those stems because someday I may need to remix it, or some movies typically want to do that because they want to increase the quality even higher than an AIFF or a WAV file. They want to put it up to way high quality, and sometimes they want to remix it themselves because they have an idea how it'll fit with the rest of the movie music. So it's good to have those if you can. It's never stopped me from getting a placement not to have those, because I have some old songs. I only have the instrumental and the full vocal version. I don't even have alternate mixes, and I've still gotten placements, and they've never asked me for those. But it's nice to have them if you can.
Okay, so, okay, just one more time on this cut down. The cut down means 15 seconds or 30 seconds. Is that of the instrumental track, or you're just kind of like whatever's the hookiest part
Could
of the
be either
song?
one, but usually it's the full song, but yeah, it depends. I usually do a 30, 15, 30, and 60 second of the whole vocal, the whole production. But if they want to do a 15 second of the instrumental, you're going to send them the instrumental. They can do that edit themselves.
Okay. Okay, I got a bunch of questions here, so
Well, yeah, it won't take too long, or you can either ask them or I can move on, whichever you think is best.
Well, it feels like there are things that are a little more overarching, so why don't you just keep talking and we'll get to.
All right, and maybe I'll cover some of those, and if I don't, you can
Right.
just ask. So,
Okay.
all right,
We
jump
will
in.
get to all these questions. Keep putting your
Yeah.
questions in the chat, everybody.
Yeah, keep putting them in there. Thank you for that. Thank you all for being here. All right, be careful of using samples. There's a lot of controversy on this because, there are songs on the radio that use samples. And, we've heard recently that a few people, Beyonce's gotten in trouble because she used a sample to get permission. But they really are worried about getting someone else to claim the licensing income, some of the licensing income, if you use a sample that they own and that everybody can recognize. So they say generally don't use samples. That doesn't mean you can't use software instruments. It just means if somebody's got a loop that's recognizable and they sell it to 1,000 people and all of a sudden it shows up on your thing, if you don't have the right license or contract with them, you've gotten it off some website or something, then, or you have the wrong one because it says they're going to participate in the publishing if you use their loop, that or the licensing fee, you could be in trouble and it could stop your placement, or they could get sued if they've already put it in the TV show or movie, and it's happened many, many times. So they become gun shy about it. And so if you use sample, alter them so they're different and unrecognizable, change keys, tempos, chop them up, really alter them. And then you won't typically get in trouble, but be careful about that. Using software instruments, totally okay. Using samples, loops, not so okay. You have to be very, very careful about that. And again, one of the great things about producing for sync is you can do any style, because sometimes I'm going to show you a list of typical things that they're asking for in sync. And they want some retro stuff. They want super modern stuff. They want, weird and quirky stuff. So if you're a quirky songwriter and your songs, every time you pitch, they go, wow, that's really great, but I have no idea what artist would do that. Sync may be the place for you, because you could do your quirky thing and just follow your muse, and you might get more placements than somebody who's writing straight down the middle. Dynamics are crucial, as I showed you in this waveform thing. Make sure there's a build, and in fact, this one should even be bigger at the end. They want a build as it goes through the song, like they do on the radio. You got to keep the listener's interest, but in sync, they want choices. They want one that's really quiet, one chorus that's the breakdown chorus, one chorus that has all the instruments coming in and the vocals really big and a bunch of harmonies, one where there's only one voice, but all the instruments are there. So give them as many choices and edit points. Like you could see on this waveform where you could edit this track if you needed to. If they say, we only need 20 seconds. I can see where I could cut it right there about 20 seconds. So give them a lot of edit points and dynamics. All right, here we go. Getting your ducks in a row. Sync moves really fast. I routinely get things to say, I get them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They say it's due at 4 o'clock today. Now, how could that be? Well, what are you supposed to do? You can't write and produce it. Most people can't, except if you're Prince or, somebody like that. You cannot write and produce a track in 2 hours. So what I've done over the last 3 years is I have close to 600 tracks on my disco, and we'll get into disco in a minute. Some of which are instrumental versions of the tracks I have or cut downs. I'm close to 600 tracks on my disco, and I have all the styles that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes. So I can pitch things that are really, really fast briefs. Now, often they'll give you a week, they'll give you 3 days. You could potentially write a song and produce it in that time, depending on who you are and who your partners are. And we'll get into that in a minute. But sync moves really, really fast. And they also want to have things clearable. And we'll talk about that. You must own the rights to the master or have permission to pitch it and sign a licensing deal. So that's called one-stop or admin rights. So if Nancy and I write a song together and we get it produced and a master recording, Nancy and I are going to sign a little agreement between the two of us. We both know how sync works. And I'm going to say, Nancy, if you get an opportunity, I give you permission to say yes to that licensing opportunity, because I may be in a writing session or I may be on a jet somewhere, flying somewhere. She can't get a hold of me and she needs to pitch it right now and give them permission to place it. And she gives me permission to do that. And we both know between each other, we're not going to take a bad deal. We're going to go for the best deal we can. So you got to trust your co-writers and your co-producers, but you need to have that right. Now, I just have a song that I just got produced, and I have a pro writer on it, and she has a publishing deal with Sony Publishing in Nashville. And she said, I cannot sign a one-stop an admin agreement with you, Bill. My publishing company won't let me do it, but I've made a special arrangement for sync with them. They'll clear it within the day if we get an offer. So that's most of the time going to work. And so that's called an easy clear. So one stop is Nancy or I could both say yes to a deal. We don't have to check with anybody else. Easy clear, I have to check with somebody else, but they're likely to say yes. They're very likely to say yes in a short amount of time. All right. And if it's not that, you could still get a placement, but it's going to be way, way harder. You must have signed work for hire forms. Sometimes they ask for them, and signed admin forms available. I've pitched songs where they say, we want you to upload onto our website before we'll pitch your song an admin deal. So let's say, again, Nancy and I have an admin deal between us. We write, Nancy Deckhand and Bill O'Hanlon agree to a joint admin for this particular song, and either has a right to say yes to a licensing deal. This is a one-stop agreement. And we both sign it, we digitize it, and I upload it to that site. Otherwise, I can't pitch that song. Now, sometimes they don't ask for it, but they'll assume you have it. If you tell them it's one stop, they'll assume you have a signed, not just a verbal agreement, signed one-stop admin form available. So if you're going to do sync, get work for hire. And what work for hire means is the person you've hired to play on it or sing on it or produce it is not going to make any claims on the licensing income or the writing or the publishing of it. You need to get that signed. If you don't have it signed, you may not be able to pitch.
Okay, well, we're on this topic, Bill. We
Yes.
have two really relevant questions about this topic. And I think we should just go ahead and cover right now.
Go, that's fine.
And the first one is from Matthew, which is, for the really fast turnaround time, is that when they are sending out blanket solicitations to many writers so that they can
are.
be fair in having a deadline for submission to select the one they like? Or is that something where they are giving you that 2 hours to have?
No, they're sending it out to a bunch of people. And sometimes they had a song and it fell through because someone didn't have their ducks in a row.
Hmm.
And they say, shoot, we thought we had this one and it was cleared. We have to finish our edit by the end of the day. We need a song by 2 hours, and the editor is going to be up all night putting this song in the TV show or the movie or the commercial. And we need it in 2 hours, and we need a clearable song. So they're sending it out to everybody that they know, saying, you got one that fits this brief, and we'll talk about briefs in a minute, but you've got one that fits this criteria. If you do, even if it's not the perfect song, they're probably gonna place your song and give you a license for it because the other one fell through and it didn't have the right legal stuff going with it. So
Okay,
yeah, you're competing with a lot of people for a placement typically.
right. Okay, Bobby Curley is asking, what do these clearances and admins and work for hire forms look like? Any examples? And you can get examples off the internet, but a lot of
Yeah,
times.
you can.
It does. So a lot of times it's just like, you give me permission and I give you permission. Here's all the writers and we give each other.
Let me see if I can find one and show it to you as a screen share. Let me see if I can do this. This is gonna be a little difficult because I have to move this. There we go. Okay, so let me see. I do admin form. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to find it. I do admin. Maybe I'll be able to find it. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I don't. It's not coming up. Sorry. No, I just made one up.
Yeah. Just make one up.
Yeah, I just made one up. So, sorry here.
I can
Yeah.
pitch your song and we can. all-
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I don't make it a lot of legalese. I'm just like, and sometimes you have a schedule A, you'll just list the songs that you have together. If Nancy and I have written 20 songs together and we write a 21st one, I don't want to have her sign that contract again and again. So I'll just add it. And all the songs in Schedule A are covered by this admin agreement.
Right.
So I'll just add the next song that Nancy and I just finished writing that we're going to pitch for sync to that admin agreement. But it's pretty straightforward. I just made mine up. So I went and looked at some on the web and then I just made my own up.
Hey, Bill, so how often do people ask for the documents, the supporting documents on those?
Not very often. Not
Yeah.
very often, but often enough. So if you don't have them, you could be screwed. And if you really say you have them and you don't have them and they check later, or somebody makes an objection later, one of your co-writers says, wait a minute, I didn't want that song in that. I'm a religious person. I don't want it on this dirty Netflix movie. You're screwed.
You really are. You better get this agreement ahead of time and
You
have
get it ahead
everybody
of
sign
time.
it.
Have everybody sign it. Now, some people say, okay, are the people who are gonna license your song, are they gonna register it at your pro? Typically not. Sometimes if they take your publishing, they might. So I wouldn't guarantee that they wouldn't, but I always register my own songs like you should when I write them at BMI, ASCAP, PRS, whatever, those are all PROs, the Performance Rights Organization that collect your royalties for you. Now, here's the thing, that $1,000 I got for my first placement, that's not the only money that comes in, because every time it's played on TV, I get a little royalty in my writing. I signed over the publishing to that agency that took it, but I get writing royalties for it. So you get some back end. Sometimes your back end can be thousands and thousands of dollars if that thing is played over and over again. If it's the theme song to the Today Show, they'll pay you an upfront fee, and then they'll pay you a fee every time they play that song. It's like being on the radio. And I know people who make a full-time living because they wrote the Today theme song. They make a full-time living with just that song.
Okay, just to clarify, your BMI or ASCAP will pay you for the performance of it on TV, right? Right. That's
Right.
who's
They
paying.
will pay you. They'll pay you the publishing side if you're your own publisher, and they'll pay you the writing side if you're the writer. And they should collect that. They get a cue sheet from the TV show or the movie or the commercial. They get a so-called cue sheet, and it should have all your BMI or ASCAP or PRS or whatever information on there, and that's how they'll know to pay you. Yes, for the back end. All right, so you should have access to original files, as I said, if you can. But again, sometimes I haven't, and I've still gotten placements. So for the first year I got into sync, once I got my first placement, I'm like, I'm going more into this. I'm going to learn more about it, and I started to get briefs. Now, no one would take my songs because I didn't have any relationships with sync agents or libraries yet, except one, that one that got me that placement. And it just was a weird accident that I got into that. It was called Pink Shark. It's a boutique agency in California. And I was in a class with the woman who ran it just because a friend of mine said, oh, she needs more people in class. Will you sign up? So I did. And then I started getting briefs. After a while, I found briefs other places. And briefs are requests for certain types of songs. And I, for the next year, I just looked at every brief I could find online, anywhere. You know, I joined online groups, Facebook groups that had briefs. I found out a couple more sync agents and libraries, and I went on and looked at their songs that they had licensable. And I came up with this list of the 12 top categories in sync. And for the next 2 years, I and my production and writing partners created songs in every one of these categories, probably 30 or 40 songs in most of these categories. And then when a brief came in and it said tomorrow or 2 hours from now, I had a fully produced, ready to go track, ready to pitch. The first one is Swagger. You know, you get that like, we are the champions, my friend. That's a Swagger song. Female empowerment is like, you know, Firework is a good one by Katy Perry. You know, I'm the queen, all that stuff. It's like, you can't knock me down. You know, I get up and I get knocked down. I get up again. Chumbawamba. What was that? Chumbawamba. So those are all empowerment or swagger songs. If they're male, they're typically swagger, but there's sometimes female swagger songs, especially in rap and hip hop. Female empowerment is, you know, you can't keep me down. I'm a woman. I'm strong. Hear me roar. That's female empowerment, right? Fun, bouncy, happy. You know, don't worry, be happy. That's a perfect example of a fun, happy song. But, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, can I have a little more? Perfect for a placement if the Beatles would allow their songs to be placed. Positive encouragement songs, like, you know, Firework was one of those songs that I showed you the lyrics earlier. But positive encouragement, you can do it. It's going to be a brand new day. We'll get through this pandemic. Things will be better. Just hold on, you know, hang on, that kind of stuff. Sexy, seductive, you know, fever, you give me fever, fever all through the night. Right? I guess you could say WAP is a sexy, seductive song. I don't know whether it really fit in that category, but it's a little explicit. But Christmas and holiday songs every year from about March to August, but it's usually the end of July, they're looking for the songs they're going to need in December. Now, Hallmark looks for them all year round because they're producing Christmas movies all year round. And recently Netflix is too. But Christmas holidays, and when I say PD, means public domain. There are websites you can go on and look at the songs for Christmas that we all know they're public domain. You do your own version. You don't have to worry about getting it cleared because you own that version and nobody's going to claim a copyright on it because it was written in 1764 or something like that, you know, Good King Wenceslas or whatever it may be, or, you know, Up on the Housetop or Jingle Bells. I don't know. Jingle Bells is probably not one of them. You'd have to look it up. All right. Love and romantic songs, just like on the radio, a lot of songs about love and romance. You know, longing for love, being in love, breaking up, you know, stalking people, every step you take. Oh, sorry. Let's see, dark, dramatic, cinematic stuff. There's a lot of dark pop songs, a lot of dark cinematic songs. I can't think of one at the moment, but I'm sure you know. Quirky and novelty songs. Rubber Ducky, you're the one. That's a novelty song. That's a quirky song, right? Tiptoe Through the Tulips. Sorry, all these. I'm really old. These examples are very, very old. acoustic singer-songwriter. John Mayer's perfect for this kind of stuff. Ed Sheeran is great for this kind of stuff. So any of that kind of stuff. Olivia Rodrigo had a great one that's pop, but acoustic singer-songwriter. Hip hop, rap, and they're especially looking for clean. They can use songs with swear words in them or derogatory terms, but if they want it for a commercial, they're using a lot of hip hop for commercials and for TV shows these days, and they can't have swear words in them. They can't have derogatory terms for women in them, or stuff about drugs. So if you can write a clean hip hop or rap song, you're in good shape. Covers, you can't. You won't get all the money for it, because half the money will go to the writers and the publisher, and half the money will go to you. You get the master's side of it. There are two sides to a sync placement: the recording, that's the master, and then the writing and publishing. And so if you do a cover, you're not going to be able to clear both sides of it. But hopefully the supervisor or the music supervisor is the one who puts the music into the TV show or the commercial or the movie or the video game. They're going to go to those publishers and clear them. Now, sometimes people won't allow their songs to be covered, but I've heard really cool covers, as you probably have, of like U2's One Love. And I just heard it played really simply, One Love, One Life, just on piano, beautiful female vocal. And I'm like, that's perfect for sync right there. So retro, authentic, or original recordings from certain eras. I get briefs all the time say, if you have an original recording from the 1960s, that's psychedelic rock, that one is perfect for this. Now, you'd have to have the master, and there are some artists that do have those masters because they were recording psychedelic stuff, or some old, songwriters that are in their 60s will say, yeah, I've still got my recording from the 60s and I got them digitized at a certain point, so I have the master. But you can write retro sounding songs. I've written a bunch of R&B soul songs that sound like they came out of the Motown era. I've written blues songs that sound like, they were written by B.B. King. So you can do retro sounding things that are modern, like Amy Winehouse did that. Her songs sound like they came from a different era, and they sound like they were recorded the day she recorded them. They were modern retro. So they're not authentically old style stuff. They're retro. So if you want to start putting your library together, this is what I'd recommend: is cover any of these or specialize in one. If you want to do all Christmas songs for the year, go for it. Okay, Nance.
Okay, so we got a couple of questions that are really relevant to this here, which one's from Kevin Lynch, that says, are you writing full-length songs which will be cut down for sync, or do you write them at an ideal sync length?
I write full-length songs. They're anywhere from, just like on the radio, 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm writing for a commercial, I'll write a 60-second thing. But most of the time I'm writing full songs. And then if it's for a commercial, I'll just take 60 seconds out of it. I'll take the most compelling 60 seconds, or I'll take a chorus with a little vocalese around it or nothing around it. It'll just be the chorus, and it won't be an instrumental. It'll be what they call a TV version, which is the chorus, vocals only, and the rest of the vocals all removed. So I guess that's not a full song, but I'm writing full songs typically. Yeah.
Okay, just something that Tracy and Vance Marino said is that they really have, sometimes their songs are, pretty short, like a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus and a nonsense.
Yeah, you can get away with a minute 45, because they're typically not going to use your whole song, except when they do. If it's an end, you've all seen those movies that have a full song at the end, or a TV show that in the last scene they have a 3-minute song. So you're right, they're going to use part of it, but I'd rather give them the whole choice. Now, if it's hard for you to write a 3-minute song and you'd rather write a bunch of 1 minute 45 second songs, go for it. They'll probably get placed if they're good enough. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so, and Matt wants to know, do you try to hit multiple of these categories in a single song? And do,
No,
okay.
no, I mean, you could, I guess, but no, it's just like the radio. They want one type of song, one in the one song. Now, there are probably some exceptions to that, but no, it's either swagger, pure fun, positive encouragement. I guess you could combine some of these, but no, there's going to be one, it's going to be down one lane typically.
Yeah. And, okay, all right.
All right.
Randy, we'll get to that question later.
Okay. And we're almost done here.
Okay.
So, I had a mentor in this, Michael Elsner, and he said, stop watching TV and start listening to TV. You get hooked into the program or even the commercial. Go listen to the stuff that's being placed right now, and that'll be your best education. But there are sites that you can go and listen to what's been placed. TuneFind is one of them. That has almost every TV show that is in existence, and you can go back and listen to 5 seasons of, let's say, Grey's Anatomy, and figure out what kind of songs are they using. Now, it's probably going to change from season to season, but there'll be a type of song or several types of songs that they like. They'll like singer-songwriter, and they'll like rock, and you'll go, okay, if I want to pitch for Grey's Anatomy, I'm going to do singer-songwriter and rock. And for these themes, you'll find some themes on there. Same thing with ads, ad tunes, iSpot TV. And again, when you get the replay, Nancy will send you the PDF of this, so you don't have to write this stuff down if you don't want. But go listen to some of these when you're getting into singing and go, oh, I get what they're using in these TV ads or their TV shows or movies. And I want to write songs like that. Or I've got songs like that. I need to produce them so they sound like these. Okay. So sync collaboration, as I said before, you probably can't do all this yourself. I don't produce very well. I can do it, but I'm not that great. I co-write with people that are great at using their DAWs, Logic or Pro Tools. They're really good producers. Some of them can produce. We had Lucy LeBlanc and Paul DeMarco and I had a brief that came in at 4:00 in the afternoon, and we said we need it by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And we wrote a song, and Paul produced it overnight. Now he's in the UK, so he had a little advantage because when he got up, he still had 6 hours to produce that song after we wrote it. So he produced the song, and we just got that song forwarded to it was a TV show. It was an animated series. I think it's a TV show. And we just got a song signed for a movie that we wrote overnight as well. So get people that can do that stuff with you. If you're not good at producing or singing, find a vocalist that is hungry for some music income and get them to agree that you will all co-own the masters and all that stuff. So get a clear sign agreement up front, admin and ownership of masters. 2 or 3 times the pitch and networking opportunities if you write with 3 people that are pitching. I write with teams that pitch my songs even when I'm not pitching. Get a work for hire agreements, get everyone's PRO information, and register the song. Those are the minimal things you need to do when you're collaborating with people. But find those great people to do that. Decide the splits before you pitch and get everyone's contact and PRO information, as I said, and get those things signed. And so here's just my information that I'll put on this. I have a music page, and I have a Spotify list of most of the songs. I have 54 songs released, and not all of them have been released through Spotify, but the ones that are on Spotify, I think there's probably 45 on there, and I'll add more. And then I have a free video if you want to. You have to go sign up for it. All right, so I'm getting out of this. I'm stopping my screen. Oh, let me just play you a couple of more things. So you can write quirky songs that I don't know where this would go on the radio, but this one got signed just recently. So I'm going to play you this.
My mind's a riot, my heart's a mess. That's just what happens when you fall in love, I guess. I'm going crazy for what you got. The way you make it rock, it ought to be against the law. wild, wild.
Now, this is an ad song.
You got me going gaga. The pop ain't gonna stop. Everything is getting hot when you move to the wild, wild. Did you see that wild, wild? Ooh, I want that wild, wild.
Vocal Louise.
Wild, wild, wild.
All right, you got the idea. Now here's a hip hop song that I wrote with my partner.
Hey,
We hired a vocalist, work for hire, a rapper.
yeah, hey. People gonna try to take you out of the light. Don't pay them no mind, just get back in the fight. Go where you want, get what you need, give all you got. Go for the dream, follow where it's leading. It's all up to you, what you do with your life. Can't please everybody, can't always play nice. Keeping the faith, eyes on the prize, finding a way. Give it some time, don't never stop believing. Long live the dream. Long live the dream. Long live the dream. Long live the dream.
All right. So that's enough for that. And I store all these on a site called Disco. And Disco is what most music supervisors and sync agents use. And if you're going to get serious about sync, I won't even mess around with anything else. Some of you have SoundCloud, some of you have SongSpace. Disco is the one to be on. Most sync supervisors, music supervisors, sync agents and libraries are on Disco, and they can do one click and download it into their Disco. It's very user-friendly for music supervisors. Okay, I'm going to stop this sharing, back to my video. And we have time for questions and comments, either live ones or the ones you found, Nancy, that you need to ask me.
Okay, well, let me hit this one up by Randy because we didn't touch on this
Great.
yet. But do you recommend always going through a sync agent to get placements, or do you go directly to TV music supervisors and stuff like that?
If you can get a relationship with a TV or movie music supervisor, you're in good shape. But they protect themselves like the red velvet rope at Studio 54. You're probably not getting over through that red velvet rope. You might. I have a friend. We know Nancy and I know Jody Friedman. Jody Friedman's friend became a movie producer, and he at one point said, "Can you find me any songs?" And he goes, "Hey, why don't I just be your music supervisor for the next movie?" After pitching him songs directly. So if you have a producer friend, a TV producer, movie producer, or a director or whatever, use those direct things, because usually the sync agent is going to take a chunk of your profits. They're going to take 50% often. So if you've got a direct relationship with them, but it's hard to get those relationships, and then you might blow it by sending them too many songs that are wrong for their project and waste their time. So if you've got one of those relationships, guard it preciously and only send them songs you know are perfect for their project, and they will thank you and they will keep that relationship with you. But that's very, very rare until you're into sync for a while. And then you will develop some of those relationships probably.
Yeah, good advice. I think you don't discount the humble sync agent here. They're your best friend.
The sync agent is the only way to get there. Sync agent and library and agency. If you don't have those direct music supervisors, I had book agents, and people used to say, "Doesn't it annoy you to give part of your profits of your book to a book agent?" And I go, "No. I thank my lucky stars for my book agent, because I wouldn't have gotten my book on Oprah, but for the book agent who got me a contract with HarperCollins, which got me on Oprah." Those people are worth their weight in gold when you can't pitch sync directly because you don't have the relationships, and they do.
Okay, great question from Consuelo. What percentage do you typically give to singers and musicians on
I don't give them anything. I hire them. Well, I mean, they're different relationships. I have a relationship like Lucy's on here. Lucy LeBlanc is one of my co-writers, frequent co-writers. And we have a team, we call it DAL, which is DeMarco, O'Hanlon, and Lucy LeBlanc. That's our little initials. And Paul sings almost all of our songs. But if we hire a female, he's a male, if we hire a female singer, we pay them a fee typically. We just pay them, hey, we'll pay you $150, $300, whatever they charge, whatever it's worth to us, and we have them sign a work for hire. Now, Paul and Lucy and I have an agreement between the three of us. We co-own all the songs, we co-write and we split it 1/3, and we co-own all our masters. And that's our agreement between the three of us. And the three of us all pitch. Lucy and I pitch a little more than Paul, and he produces way more than we do. So yeah, it's a different agreement for different people. You could offer somebody, I'll give you part of the master if you sing this because I can't afford it. And we'll give you 25% of the master if you'll do the vocal on this song. Because none of us are female vocalists, and we really want a great vocal, and we love your vocal.
Great. That's up to you, but usually it's just paid work for hire, right? I mean,
I hire producers, I hire instrumentalists, I hire rappers, as I said, I hire vocalists, and yeah, definitely.
okay, so back to sync agents here. Sync agents only take a percentage on the licensing fee. That's correct. They take, anywhere from 30 to 50%. And then, but not a percentage of the future royalties is the question. Do they take?
Well, it's different for every deal, and they'll offer you a contract and you'll see it. Sometimes they take your publishing and future royalties, they'll get your publishing, or they'll take half of your publishing or whatever. But usually they'll take your publishing when you're starting out. They'll take all your publishing. So when that money comes in on the back end, they'll get half of the back end money, and you and your co-writers will get the other half. Yeah, it just depends on your deal. I have a deal with a sync agent, an agency that signed Lucy's and my and other people's songs. I've signed 16 songs with them, and they don't take any publishing. So the back end is all mine, but that's a pretty generous deal. Most sync agents, that's how they make their money. They make it on the upfront and the back end, just like my book agent. My book agents make 15%, even after they die, they make 15% because it goes to their estate. Books that I published in the 1990s, they're still getting royalties, and I'm totally happy for that. I'm totally happy for that because they got me that book contract, and I wouldn't have gotten the book contract. Where would you sign up to sync to submit materials? There are a bunch of places that are more general, but you just research libraries, sync libraries, music license libraries, sync agents. Nancy happens to be one, and agencies. So there are a bunch. They're hard to get into because a lot of people want to get into them. And just like in the music business, general music business, relationships matter. I mean, the quality of your work matters, and then relationships, and then being a good hang. Those three things will take you a long, long way in all of the music business. But if you're a jerk to work with, you don't have, you're demanding, or you send them, hey, you signed my song yesterday. Has it been placed yet? And you write them every day. They're going to go, I don't want to have anything to do with this person anymore. They are not fun. They're taking up all my time. Right. So, you just develop relationships. It's taken me 3 years to develop trusted relationships with some people. And I get live briefs now that are due in 2 hours. And I'm, Lucy and I talked about it. I said, this year, we want to get live briefs. We want to develop relationships with music supervisors, direct relationships. And we put that on our intentions. And we're getting live briefs so often, we cannot keep up. And for years, I was like, please just send me a live brief, a real brief. I want to pitch to it. And it just took a while, like anything.
I would like to stress the fact that it can often take a lot of concerted effort and a lot of time to get your first sync placement but it may take you 5 years. That's
It's a long
nothing.
game, yeah.
It's a long
game.
game because you're learning what to put in, how to be successful at the kind of production and kinds of songs people want, and you're working on relationships, anything that you can do to get in the door. Like we've had a sync challenge and put your people right in front of sync agents and got briefs from them.
Yep.
I mean, these are the kinds of things that, you know, it would,
Yeah.
instead of it taking you 5 years, it takes you signing up and some money.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
it is,
yeah.
it's hard
Invest
for
in
everybody.
learning about it. Invest in learning about it. Get on some sync webinars where there are supervisors
Yeah.
or agents, and, you know, develop relationships with people like Nancy who do have those access. You know, and that's what I was saying before about my literary agent. I don't know anybody at HarperCollins, but she knew who was looking for the kind of book that I was writing, and she knew what money she could get from it. So these people are your go-betweens until you develop those direct relationships, if you ever do. And maybe I never did. I never could pitch a book. Well, I shouldn't say that. One time I pitched a book directly to my editor at HarperCollins, but it got turned down. But otherwise, I always went through my literary agents. And they got me tens of thousands of more dollars for my books than I would have gotten on my own, because I didn't know what they were worth and I didn't know how to negotiate. So develop relationships with your sync agents. Well, I'll tell you one more story. I mean, I stumbled into my first placement, which was, I think, 2.5, 3 years ago now, because I was on a paid webinar with the woman who ran the sync agency.
Mhm.
And they signed a couple of my songs. Nothing got placed. And one day, the second in charge, not the woman who was in charge, the second in charge, her right-hand man, called me up and said, "You write country, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm calling because we have a brief for the CMT that's due at the end of the day, and we never sign country songs because they just don't get placed. Do you have any masters that you own the rights to?" And I said, "I have 4 masters that I own the rights to." He said, "Send me those 4 songs right now." And within 2 weeks, I had a placement.
Oh, cool.
My next placement didn't come for 2 years.
Right. Well, and it's not just a matter of the right place at the right time. It's working all the time to put yourself in a position that someone can ask you those questions. So
Yeah.
like, you know, any event where they're saying, hey, there's a listening session where you can get yourself and your music in front of a sync agent, or the sync challenge that we have. We'll probably do another one this year. You know, Durango Songwriter Expo. I mean, stuff like that. This is how you get your foot in the door, and it costs, you know, it costs time, and money to do these things, but this is kind of what we do.
Yeah, so there was another question here, and Kevin, you sent me something, but it's way up in the thing. I wasn't looking at the chat at that point.
And I like
so I
this
didn't-
one by Hillary too, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
send Hillary's.
Can you share some realistic numbers in terms of what a newbie could expect for specific types of sync deals? It really anywhere from, I just got a sync deal and it's $600. It's for an indie movie, and they're going to play it on the radio in the background. So it's not a big sync placement. But right now I'm up for a sync placement that is $15,000 to $20,000. And my song got forwarded to it. So, you know, it only takes 1 or 2 of those a year to make you feel pretty good about making your living in music. And I, again, know people who make full-time living at it, who get tens of thousands of dollars every month from their sync placements. But again, you know, it just depends on how hard you work at it, how good your songs are, and those connections. And yes, Consuelo, sync agents do get briefs. That's why they're agents. They've developed those relationships with those supervisors to get those briefs. You haven't yet. And I've learned how to get closer to the briefs, the live briefs, without a sync agent sometimes. But it's taken me years. And, you know, Lucy, who's on here, and she and I pitch all the time. We've shared some resources to get closer to those briefs, and we get them all the time now, but it took us a few years to figure it out.
Well, I want to say, look, we have a thing called Road Call. And it's $100 a month, but you'll get as many free briefs, like you can, how many, I don't know, how many of those do you get a month on this? I think it's about 2 of those a month, but like the last
those a
one
month,
that
yeah.
came, there were multiple requests in it.
Full
So,
request, yeah.
I mean, this is a significant amount of money, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, if it's gonna.
You get your foot in the door and you get feedback on your songs. Yeah, you get your foot in the door, get feedback on your
right.
sync songs.
And you
And
can
that's
pitch to
great.
artists too, but I would say.
Yeah, it's pitched to artists too, yeah, definitely.
Through discoversooner.com, go to.
Well, and the other thing
songwriters,
is,
okay?
on discoversooner.com and in some of these sync programs that Nancy has, you can meet those producers, those vocalists who want to pair with other people who are writers, lyricists, or whatever, and who are hungry for that. So you just got to find the people that are hungry for it. I have probably 5 teams that I work with, 3 that I work with really consistently, like every week or every 2 weeks, we're writing 1 or 5 songs. Again, Lucy, who was on here, I think she's gone, but Lucy was on here. She and Paul and I wrote 2 songs this morning. That's one of my teams. And I wrote a song yesterday with another one of my teams. So we do 2 or 3 songs a week, maybe more. And I've found my people, just like you find your right co-writers if you're writing in country.
So we're getting to the end of it here. Did anybody else have any question here that maybe that didn't get answered yet? Last chance.
Some burning question or comment, even a comment, that's okay. Yeah, you can
unmute yourself and
you can unmute yourself and just ask it, or you can raise your hand if you want. There's a raise your hand thing in the reactions
Right.
if you'd rather be.
I just want to thank you for all the great specifics. I really got a lot of specifics. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like Nancy said, I'm a compulsive teacher when I learn something, and it's taken me really 3 years to learn this.
That's right. Okay, I'm gonna get a couple of things. I want to remind you guys.
Oh, yeah, good.
I want to tell you that if you're a Sooner member, you can pitch your song to Debbie Zavitson coming up on Monday, August 22nd. But if you just want to get your feet wet and learn all about it, you can come to the event for free. It's a free, to attend. Sooner members can pitch their songs. And then I have put everybody who has signed up right here. And
A random name generator. Yeah.
I got a random list generator whose ever names comes to the top is going to get a 1-hour consultation with an entertainment lawyer. And then there's the book that we will mail you too. So, but you have to be present to win. So I'm going to do the book first.
And I'm going to say, whoever gets the book, that's great. TG, who's TG?
Hey, TG, are you here? Nope, no TG. How about Bill Goo? You
Bill
here?
Guy, I think.
Bill Guy? Nope.
Brian
Brian
Lynch. Rosie's going to
down.
watch it later. She's in Ireland. She's asleep.
Okay. Anna Linguist? No? How
Sue
about
Gartland.
Sue Gartland? Are you here? Okay. Steve Sherman, are you here? Okay.
Yes, Steve Sherman's here.
Steve
Steve Sherman wins the book.
Sherman, you're getting dang, Steve. Okay, Steve, put your
Yeah, Consuelo, go
yeah,
for
can
it.
you
night.
send me your can you put your address and I will send you this book.
Just do it on a private chat in this if you can, Steve.
Yeah, okay, put it in a private chat in there. Okay, I'm gonna
Do it to Nancy directly.
okay, and
Okay, random time again. Who's
random
next?
time, here we go.
What's next? Oh, if I won this, I'm not eligible, but if I won this on-hour legal consultation, that's when I'd run my form by this guy. He probably has a form that's an admin form, or just could ask him any questions. And yeah, I do a private chat. You just choose Nancy's name when it says everyone. You just choose that little thing. It says Nancy Deckhand host. Just choose her and then the rest of us won't be able to see it.
Right. All righty, and this is for the 1 hour consultation. It can be on.
How come
Zoom.
TG always comes to the top? That doesn't seem random to me.
Well, it has come TG didn't put their name in there.
I know. Well,
Jenna Landels, are you here?
and Lando's here. Just type in the chat if you're here.
Hillary Stiles.
Hillary's
I am
here.
still here.
Hillary's here. Hillary's here. I saw
Hillary.
Hillary.
Okay, Hillary, I have your email and I'm gonna hook you up with Chuck Allen Floyd.
Man, that is such
He's
an
amazing.
awesome surprise. Thank you so much.
Chuck Allen is a songwriter and he knows the legal stuff like the back of his hand. And he's a really nice guy as well.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
He's
Cool.
really terrific. So if you have anything you want to ask him, right? Shashi had a meeting with him, right? In the past. All right.
Oh yeah,
Alrighty.
he's amazing.
Okay, let me see here. Did I get the address of Steve?
Steve, did you figure out how to
Steve,
do
I
that?
got you. I have your, and we'll.
Copy it
we'll
out
post-
of there, Nan.
I got it. All
You're
right,
Great. Okay.
people, thank you so much. Tomorrow we are going to, I'm gonna stop recording.